All right, so if I want to have a job at a large company like this, what barriers should I pass?
Well, if you want to go in, you first need to pass the security, of course.
But besides the security, what else?
Well, serious, you need to pass the ATS, the applicant tracking system.
So what is this ATS that my colleague is talking about? Well, large companies, they receive tens of thousands of resumes per week. Now, they won't read all of them. Rather, they will program something comparable to a digital robot to check this ocean of resumes and then look for resumes that are worth being read by a human recruiter. Now, that digital robot, that is the ATS, the applicant tracking system. So they give this ATS a job. For instance, if in the job description the company mentioned explicitly 4, 5, 6 times that they're looking for someone with management experience, for sure the ATS will be programmed to scan tens of thousands of resumes to look for candidates that have that management experience. Now, those resumes that will be approved by the ATS, they will be passed on to human recruiters. But those resumes that are not approved, they will never be seen by human eyes. That is why you first have to get past the ATS before you can even have the smallest chance of getting the job. Because if you do not get past it, your chances of obtaining that job are exactly 0%. Now, very often we see amazing, fantastic resumes that have 0% chance of getting past the ATS because of 1 or 2 minor mistakes. And in this video, we will teach you how to avoid those mistakes to make your resume ATS friendly. Let's have a look. We advise you to avoid tables if you want your resume to be ATS friendly. For instance, if you want to present your educational experience, do not present it in a table form such as you see here. Instead, use a more traditional text-based format, such as what you see here. Why should you avoid tables? Because especially older ATS versions, they have trouble interpreting data that is in a table form. So for that reason, we try to limit the risk by avoiding tables altogether. Now, tables should be avoided, but what should absolutely be avoided as well are graphics. And when you merge graphics and tables, that is double trouble. But why should graphics be avoided? Well, here we see 2 examples of a candidate trying to communicate information by use of graphics. In the above example, the candidate wants to show how well Microsoft Excel, Word, PowerPoint, SPSS are mastered by using these orange bars. So more orange bars means higher level of mastery, higher level of proficiency. And in the section below, we see that the same is attempted, but now instead of orange bars with these little stars. In both cases, the information is being communicated not with text, but with graphics. Try to avoid that. The ATS will have trouble interpreting graphics, so avoid that as much as possible. Instead, use text. So write that you're an expert, or you have intermediate skills, or you have beginner skills, but do not use bars or stars or something like that. Now, the ATS loves consistency. What does consistency mean? That means that, hey, if you use a certain format, stick to it. Okay, so for instance, in the part where you describe your achievements, okay, so of the various jobs that you had, use a format. Okay, a format could be, for instance, this, that you start with an action verb, then mention a metric and a result, and then close with the factor time. For instance, you might say, implemented a new social media policy. This resulted in 800% increase in Facebook followers in 1 year. You start with an action verb, that is implemented. Okay, then comes the metric and the result. The metric and the result was that you had 800% increase. 800% increase in what? In Facebook followers. That is the metric and the result. Then you close with the factor time, in 1 year. Now, if you do it for one job like this, then you should stick with it. You should be consistent. So you should also do it in another part of your resume where you, for instance, write, merge 2 departments, which reduced our operating costs by 350% in the first year. Again, you are consistent. You use the same format. You start with the action verb, merged. Then comes metric and result. reduced our operating cost by 350%. Then you close with the factor time in the first year. You see, you're consistent here. That is good. The ATS loves that. What the ATS does not love is inconsistency. If every bullet point has a different format, that is not good. Okay, so try to stick to one format. The next advice would be, if you want to make your resume very, very ATS friendly, is to use standard section headers. So for instance, a typical resume will have a section devoted to education and a section devoted to what you did. Well, the advice is to use standard section headers, standard section titles. And we advise you to use, for the section about education, use there as a title or header, education. Do not become creative and write stuff like my academic achievements. Just stick to the standard section headers. For the section where you talk about your, the experience, professional experience, use there as a title or section header, use professional experience. Do not become creative and, for instance, use wording like my experience in the professional field. Try to avoid that. The ATS will have trouble. Some of them will have trouble recognizing these sections if you become too creative with section headers or section titles. The next advice, if you want to maximize your chances with passing the ATS, would be to match the wording in the job description as much as possible. So if in the job description they mention 3-4 times that they're looking for a candidate that has management experience, then you should also in your resume use those words, management experience. Try to use those exact words as much as possible, because realize this, that a poorly programmed ATS will not see leadership experience as management experience. So if you write in your resume leadership experience, but in the job description they mention that they're looking for someone like management experience, the ATS might not match those, okay? Depending on how well it is programmed. A human being like me or a recruiter is able to see that management experience and leadership experience pretty much the same, but you're not dealing with a human being here. The ATS is programmed, is a program, and sometimes it can be programmed really, really poorly. So try to match the wording and the job description as much as possible. Now, the next thing you can do to be as ATS friendly as possible is to use the correct file type for your resume. The safest option is to use a plain Word document. Okay, so a Microsoft Word document. That is pretty much always a very, very safe bet. All other file types, they carry some type of risk. Especially old ATS versions, they have trouble interpreting data that comes, for instance, from a PDF file. So the advice would be that unless it is specified that you can, for instance, hand in a PDF file, do not do it. Hand in a Word document as much as possible. Only hand in other file types if it is explicitly mentioned that you can do that.